Hey, it's Wednesday, and that means it's time for Wednesday, and I am so excited. As always, it's becoming my favorite day of the week, and that's because I get to have great conversation with amazing people in our Pursuit 365 community. And big thanks to Shelly Lynn for um, creating this amazing group, this amazing platform, and for this community that we're really becoming. And thank you to, of course, to our sponsor of the Pursuit 365 Talk Wednesdays, Leanne Miles at the Clinton Wilkins Mortgage team. Without Leanne and her support, we couldn't be here. So thank you, Leanne. And without further ado, I am excited to introduce to you guys Chrissie Bettencourt, who is my guest for our Talk Wednesday. Chrissie, hi, nice to meet you.
Thank you, Steph. I'm excited to be here.
So, Chrissie, where are you coming to us from? Where do you hang your hat? Where do you reside?
I am in Kingston, Ontario, and for those who are not familiar with it, it is right smack in the middle of Toronto and Montreal along the 401, and I'm about 20 minutes from the upstate New York border. So really well placed if I want to travel anywhere.
Absolutely. It is an absolutely beautiful part of Ontario. It's truthfully a part of Ontario I need to explore. It's on the list. I've been through, I've been by, but I haven't really spent any time there. So who knows? Now I've got somebody to go and visit and have
right.
coffee with.
You're more than welcome
So,
anytime.
Chrissie, too often Awesome. Okay. So, as business owners, we tend to wear that hat. And especially when talking with other business owners, that tends to be where we focus. However, before we get to that, I would just love to know a little bit about Chrissie person, because at the end of the day, we're all people first, and I think sometimes as entrepreneurs we lose sight of that, and we I know I'm guilty of that, and I tend to let. For a while, I lost myself and really just became that entrepreneur. So I would love for you to choose 3 words to describe Chrissie the person, not Chrissie the business person. So, what 3 words would you share?
3 words. I think force of nature usually comes to mind. A lot of people tell me that. And actually also a lot of people refer to me as a Renaissance woman. And yeah, I think just my journey's been interesting. And when you talk about, losing yourself and finding yourself, and I think we all go through that process as we go through life. And that was a really important element for me throughout my whole life, was reconnecting back with myself. And it's been an interesting journey because I started off in my mid-20s where I had this dark night of the soul, my first one, because there's many that come after that. But and I just woke up and thought, my life isn't in alignment with who I am, and I needed to really dive into that, because you just find yourself following all these expectations that are set on you, and you think that that's the template for life, and then you realize, oh, wait a minute, this is not me. So I changed everything, and I started committing to that journey of staying true to myself. You stray, but I've tried my best to do that as much as possible.
Well, that is amazing. And funny enough, I'm still stuck back at you saying that you've been a force of nature before, and wow, like you literally made me react. So what is it like, where do you feel that I'm going to call that a title. I think that's a beautiful title. So where does that title, force of nature, Chrissie Bettencourt, force of nature, where does that come from? Where and has that been from a young age, or has that come on a little bit more in adulthood?
I think it's always been there. So if I were to look at it, it's always been there inherent within me from a young age, but it really didn't start coming out as a descriptor of myself until a little later. And it stems from my wanting to live life to the fullest. And the way that I make my decisions is literally by thinking about myself at 90 years old, and what would my 90-year-old self or 80-year-old self say, and making sure that I don't have any regrets, and taking those risks and taking those leaps of faith. And even though it's scary, my mantra is feel the fear and do it anyway, and you move forward as long as it's in resonance and in alignment with me and who I am. So that's where that comes from, because it's scary. It's something that tends to scare people when they start looking at, living life to the fullest and what that really means for them.
Now, tell us about the business person, and so what is your business? What do you like? What do you love most about it? What lights you up?
For me, it's really, my business is, the foundation is connection and connecting people. And there's three elements of that. I connect people back to themselves, and I connect people with others. And then I also am looking at connecting people to place, which I think is a really important element of connection. And that's what lights me up. This feeling of knowing that all of a sudden people are feeling this connection back to themselves that they have lost, or forgotten about, or this connection to others that, again, especially nowadays, because there's disconnection all over the place. The spark of joy and that light that shows up in people when they feel that connection is really what drives me and gives me my own joy in everything that I do, with respect to that. So that's really the foundation block.
Okay, so what is the what's a process? So I know very, very little about you and your business model. So what, like, do you work one-on-one with individuals? Do you work with groups? Do you tell us a little bit about that whole aspect of how someone would work with you, could work with you, because I'm loving everything you're saying. And as a natural connector, like right away, my brain is firing. But I'd love to know a bit more about sort of the systems and all of that.
So I actually do both. I work with organizations, and on that front, I help organizations create more connection within their systems and processes. So an example of that is meetings, and I will take people through workshops, or I'll work directly with the organization on how to shift their meeting ethos in a way that really is incorporating more connection. And we know, like, meetings just are one of those things that most people hate. They feel it's a waste of their time, but it's this important space where we're making decisions and we're gathering and we're connecting with people. And most of the time, 9 times out of 10, what's missing is the connection. And so I help people integrate that into their meeting culture and shift it so that they have these more productive meetings. People are feeling more connected, but like to the other people in the room, but also the organization itself and what it stands for and its goals and where it wants to go, its mission. So that's a lot of what I do in a nutshell with organizations. And then on the individual front is a whole other world where I take people into the world of food, and wine and tasting. And that's a separate program where I take people through this experiential journey, and I teach them how they can connect with themselves and with others and with place too, through food and through tasting and through the stories that come out of the food and the place and the people and the culture. And as we go through this process of tasting, cooking, and gathering, those are the three main steps, people come out of it feeling connected to all three. And then I've had a lot of emails come back where it's not just they start off with this journey with food and wine, but then they end up applying it to different areas of their life, because it forces them to really slow down and change how they look at things and be more mindful and more aware. And when they start applying that mindfulness and awareness to other areas, it really, really transforms a lot of things in their life.
Well, and I'm sure too that people maybe even discover things about themselves that they maybe didn't realize, or it allows them to tap into another aspect of themselves that maybe they wouldn't try otherwise. And that sounds really, really interesting. And I this is all about you, but
Yeah.
it's interesting because there's a new project that I'm working on, and there's some interesting aspects where you and I we're gonna have some good. We're gonna connect definitely after this.
Yay.
But
That's exciting.
so how, like, where yeah, where did this come from within you? Because I'm assuming this is not something you've been doing for 20 years, let's say. I could be wrong, but is this aspect of what you're doing a little newer to you? And did it evolve from something else? Or I would love to know a little bit more of your timeline and the flow of how this evolved for you.
It's a total evolution. And basically I'm gonna take everybody back to when I talked about my dark night of the soul in my 20s, and I realized I wasn't living a life that was in resonance with me. So I took this deep dive into this spiritual journey, and I started learning about all sorts of different spiritual cultures and incorporating that into my life. And what that did was open up my perspective of who I was, and my worldviews. And so as my world shifted, I needed my inner world. I needed to make changes in my outer world. And I realized that the outer world was no longer jiving with who I had blossomed into. So I decided to leave. I quit my job. I sold everything and I hopped on a plane, went to Argentina, and I did another 180 where I had been in this world of originally corporate, and then I did the spiritual deep dive, and then I moved to Argentina, and then I entered into the opposite of my spiritual world. I dove into this world of food and wine and this more sensual existence, I guess you could say. And it was very, grounding for me. And as I moved through that, I became a chocolatier. I taught tasting at the sommelier school there for chocolate. I started doing chocolate and wine pairing. So I evolved this whole other business out of that. And I worked with wineries and helped them with their tourism programs. And so I really dove into that, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot about the culture there and the importance of food and its place and how it connects people. So I took all of those experiences. I was there for 12 years. And then I came back 4 years ago to Canada, and I took all of those experiences, and now I've
Wow.
created this new system, because I never stick to the same thing for more than 10 years anyway. So I created this new system where I've taken all of my experiences and all of my learning and um, basically, created something new with it. And that's now where I'm headed. And that's how that evolved.
Oh, I love that so much, so much. A chocolatier. Do
Yes,
you still do you still chocolates? Is that part of this, these experiences that you're facilitating? Oh,
it
I'm
is.
intrigued. I'm so intrigued.
Yeah, I use
I'm a
actually, I
fellow
use
foodie, so
Oh, that's awesome. Well, you understand. I use chocolate as the medium for a lot of the experiences because I'm so familiar with it. But I'm a big chocolate fanatic, obviously, but I feel like chocolate's a really special food and it's very also sacred too. And there's a lot of nuances in chocolate, just like wine. And it just opens up a whole new world on a tasting level to people. And so I use it as a medium in addition to, food in general, but I really focus on chocolate a lot. Yeah.
oh, I love that. And who doesn't like chocolate? So right there, that's a place for people to connect and and to create discussion and all that sort of thing. Wow, this is incredible. I love this. I love what I get to learn about people. It's so exciting. So, Chrissy, how did you learn about Pursuit 365? How did it come through? Did you know somebody that's been, involved with the community, or yeah, just how did you discover Pursuit 365?
Actually, through Shelly. I met Shelly back when I was still living in Mendoza, Argentina, and I had helped her with a project way back when. Oh my God, I think it was maybe 2009, 2010. And we had, after that, we always kept in touch and, just remained in each other's circles. And, I got to know her a little bit more as I was working with her on this project. So then when I ended up, when Pursuit 365 was born, then she reached out to me and said, "Hey, I've got this project. I'd really like you to be involved in it." And then there you go. So it was really through Shelly that I learned about it and became involved.
Well, and what an amazing woman she is. I can see why you would have kept in touch with her. I had the pleasure of finally meeting Shelley in person, actually a week ago. I was out in British Columbia visiting friends, and her and I met for lunch. And we'd done the Zoom, FaceTime thing before, and lots of emails and whatnot. But to just sit down and have lunch with her, she really is as she really is a beautiful individual. She's aesthetically beautiful, and she's got beautiful art. And um, meeting with her and talking to her and seeing and feeling her passion come through, made me even more excited to be a part of this. So that is amazing. So a wonderful long history um, of you guys. And it really is a beautiful thing that she has created. And this is where more and more of us, right, if we each, in watching these and listening to these, when somebody, sort of, tweaks something in you, that we're really hoping that people will reach out to one another and link arms and embrace one another and see where we can lift each other up and help each other, or connect one another. So with your events, are they events, Chrissy? Like what do we let's not the I guess the ones that you would do for a business, but the ones that you're doing more personal. Like Where do you do them? How many people are usually involved? What's a little bit more of what that looks like? And does, can I come to you and say, I have a group of X, can you do this? Unpack that a little bit more for us.
Yes, so there's different, I guess you would call them levels. So, basically, they're both in person and online, so they can be one or the other. I've adapted it so that I can do it online as well. But in general, the basic one, I can pull together a chocolate tasting for a group of people and then take people through that experience, either online or in person, depending on the situation. And then the next level up from that is the entire program where it's 3 journeys, as I talked about. So I would take people through a tasting journey, and that's a series of gatherings where we would learn about tasting. And then the next step from that is the cooking component, where I take people through a series of experiences focused on cooking and bringing in those ingredients and teaching them again the connection to food through stories and culture. And then the gathering piece is the end, where we focus on gatherings and how to gather and the importance of gatherings and how people connect and you know and again gather with people, and preferably in person, but again it can be done online too. So I've adapted it to both.
Let's do in person because I don't know about anybody else. As much as I love this whole StreamYard thing and the fact that we can connect like this, boy, oh boy. After I don't even want to say the word. I don't even, the new C word. I don't even want to say it. But ever since that, it's like I just crave. Give me people. Give me people. I want to feel people's presence. Boy, oh boy. And how incredible that you have these beautiful experiences. So, if someone wanted to reach out to you, where's the best place to connect with you? Where do you hang out? We all have, I know we have all the platforms. I don't know, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Are you on all the things? Are you Facebook, Insta, website? Where do you prefer to hang out?
I have, well, I don't know if I have all of the things, but I do have my website, which is chrissiebettencourt.com, and I'm making some adjustments to it right now, so it'll be back up and live by next week. I've also got my Facebook, which I am in there fairly frequently because that's where a lot of my contacts are. Because I have so many international contacts, it's a great way for me to keep in touch with everybody across the globe. And then I'm on LinkedIn as well. And so those are probably the main areas where you'll find me hanging out, really.
Wonderful. And who would be, who's your um anymore they talk about who's your ideal client, and again, as business people, we really want to be available for everybody, but we know that we can't be. So, if you got to really select and pick, your ideal group, what does that look like? What would you curate, in that perfect scenario in your mind?
So my ideal avatar would really it's actually been an evolution as well, and I've come to this ideal avatar from all of my experiences, where it's usually women, and women who are feeling that disconnect, and there's a craving for a deeper dive and into meaningful conversation and connection with others. And I find it tends to be women, and I'm not entirely sure why. Not that men aren't wanting that either, but it just seems to be women who initiate that more in the circles that I'm running in. And yeah, and it's usually just, I would probably say that's the main thing. So it covers a lot of people, but I think the key driver there is the awareness of needing that connection, because we're not always at space where we're aware of wanting that and wanting to experience connection in new ways. So I think that's the key highlight there.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so um, I don't know if you watched any of these previous Talk Wednesdays or not. If you have, then you might have an inkling of what I'm going to ask next. But I've one question that I've been weaving into these talks, and it's become the question of these discussions now, because I just love what it brings out in people. Okay, so we've learned a lot about you, world traveler, force of nature, very spiritual, passion for food, right? And I've just learned this about you in a very, very short period of time. But if you were going to give a TED talk on nothing that you are known for, what would your TED talk be about or on?
So a TED talk that is familiar to me, but that people don't know about me. Is that the question?
So typically, if somebody were TED talk, right? So you being a chocolatier, let's say, like you might go out and do an expected TED talk would be about how I've learned that chocolate, can kill people, or something along that line. So that would be something that we would expect from you, given what you hear now. But I want to know what you would talk about, sort of the secret thing. What's nothing you're known for, right? So it's almost that secret little thing about Chrissie, that is hidden in there that maybe don't reveal to too many people. What would that TED
Yeah.
talk be about?
So that TED talk would be about connection, but connection with our unseen forces. Because I think what most people don't know about me is that I've been a medium for over 20 years, and it's not something I generally, bring up in conversation right from the get-go. So I have an ability to connect as well with what I like to call the unseen forces. And I would end up doing a TED talk on reminding people how much we are surrounded and helped and guided throughout our entire journey here in life by people we probably don't even know about. But we are very lovingly held and guided our entire lifetime here, and constantly being helped. And I think that's a really important element, because I think people really need to hear that, especially when you hit those, those roller coasters, there's those lows. And I think it's a really beautiful thing to know that we have help there, even though we can't see them. So.
Mhm. Mhm. I love that. I love that. And that really, I think, is an amazing place to wrap this up. I've learned so many interesting things about you, and I am truly fascinated. I am truly fascinated. And it is just, we're so far from, I don't know how old you are, and we don't need to reveal that. But, when I was a kid, it was, we could basically be a teacher or a nurse, and it's just so incredible to see how far we have come, and all the beautiful and amazing things that we as humans can do, and can make an impact on people's lives. And I know, for like, without a shadow of a doubt, that what you're doing is truly impacting people's lives. And thank you for that. Thank you for sharing your gift, for sharing your love and your passion for many, many things, with the world. And I can't wait to see, the the ripple effect of what you're doing. So wishing you all the best. So thank you again to Shelly Lynn for allowing me to meet this incredible woman and to help share a little bit more of her story. And of course, to thank you to Leanne Miles again for her sponsorship of the Talk Wednesdays. Anything you'd like to leave our audience with before we sign off, Chrissie?
Other than two things, always remember who you are and remember to take those risks to live life to the fullest, because we're always helped in it. So it is possible. Whatever it is you want to do, it is possible. And thank you. Thank you for having me on here. It was really fun.
Mic drop. It was absolutely my pleasure. Okay, go be fabulous, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Have a